Hello, class. My name is Robert Ortega, and today I'll be presenting the Enron Scandal. Many of you guys have heard about Enron and their accounting scandal, so I hope that this presentation isn't too boring and it serves more as a refresher. So let's go ahead and get started. So, the smartest guys in the room. So, we'll start off with Enron's CEO and chairman, which was Ken Lay, and he was pretty much the guy who started Enron from the ground up. After some deregulation with the help of the Bush family, he was able to get Enron started from the ground up. Next is Jeff Skilling, who eventually became CEO of Enron and was pretty much Ken Lay's right-hand man. And then we have Andy Fastow, who is the chief financial officer of Enron. He was pretty much considered Jeff Skilling's protege, and so Andy Fastow came about advancing through the company pretty fastly, and then became CFO, and he was pretty much the guy who was behind the SPEs, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. And so now we have Lou Pai, who is the CEO of Enron Energy Services, who was actually one of the guys that was not convicted in the Enron scandal, but he did pay a pretty hefty fine. He did leave Enron before the scandal came to light. Next, we have Cliff Baxter, who is the Chief Strategy Officer. He was pretty much more of the guy who made the deals with all the other companies, and so he was pretty involved in the scandal. And then lastly, we have Arthur Andersen, who was the public accounting firm doing the audits on the financial statements. So we have mark-to-market accounting, which is essentially what Enron used to basically book their profits on deals that they signed. So for instance, Enron, this is a real example, Enron had a deal with Blockbuster to provide on-demand broadband. And so let's say if Enron signed a deal with Blockbuster for the year for $150 million, a special concept of mark-to-market accounting at the time allowed Enron to book all $150 million in revenue, even though a dollar hadn't been collected yet. And so Enron was using mark-to-market accounting to basically prop up its revenues. Off-balance sheet financing. Here's essentially where Andy Fastow came into play, and so he was pretty much the guy behind using special purpose entities, in which essentially what they did is Enron had a lot of debt, and what they did is they stored this debt on off-balance sheet accounts. And so while Enron was using a lot of this loan money to basically pay themselves bonuses and keep the company going, Enron was storing all its debt outside of its financial statements. And so using these special purpose entities, there were such names as OGM, Raptor, Chuco, and so this is how Enron was storing all its debt, and its investors didn't see, these billions of dollars in debt. And so this is pretty much how Enron was hiding its debt. It's good to know that Andy Fastow is actually pretty much running the SPs and had an interest in Enron being the CFO, and so Andy Fastow was in the interest of Enron, but also had the best interest of his SPE. And so, there's conflict of interest there, but apparently it wasn't a big deal. Here we have the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, and so essentially, after the Enron scandal came to light, SOX came about and pretty much was put in place after Enron, WorldCom, and these accounting scandals that were coming in light. And so essentially what SOX does, it pretty much makes that all companies have to have a majority of independent directors. They also have to have a compensation committee, an audit committee, and these all consist of independent directors. And they also have to have regular sessions in which the board meets without management present. But it's essentially there to basically provide controls to try to prevent scandals from like this happening again. And so this is what SOX came about to be. And so here are my references, and I recommend you guys watch The Smartest Guys in the Room. It's basically a documentary. I think that was shot by a company called HD Films that's owned by Mark Cuban. And this is a documentary where they interview different executives from Enron. They interviewed even the whistleblower who uh, basically came out and said that Enron was doing this. And so uh, there's a lot of great interviews in there. There's also Bethany McLean, who was the reporter who questioned Enron in its financial statement. So I definitely recommend you guys watch that movie. You can rent it on Amazon Prime for like $5. It's definitely worth it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation.